Hello everyone. So in this video we are going to discuss about the later Mughal rulers. Now after the death of Aurangzeb, that is 1707, Aurangzeb died in 1707, a series of weak Mughal rulers came. Now in 1707 the Mughal Empire was the largest in GDP in economic terms. Now after 1707 there was a series of weak Mughal rulers who let down the empire, and in 1857 the Mughal Empire came to an end. So basically, as you can see in these maps, we have a series of maps actually. So as you can see, we have here, let me just start the pen. So this is our Mughal Empire, okay. So basically this whole green is the Mughal Empire, and this is around 1710, okay. So as you can see, this is 1710. So basically Aurangzeb died in 1707, and in 1710 the Mughal ruler was Bahadur Shah. So basically, as you can see, from 1710 to 1768 we have a decline in empire. So as you can see, these are the areas, okay. The green is Mughal Empire, okay, so it is represented by green, that is Mughal Empire. So as you can see, their area is continuously shrinking. So this was the whole area, then we have this, and by 1728 we have this, okay. And again in 1750 this, and by 1756 it was literally gone. So basically, as you can see, here we have all of them in yellow. So because they were in alliance with the Marathas. Technically by 1756 Marathas were the greatest power in India. So we will deal with that later. Okay, so as you can see now in 1768 we have Mughal Empire like this. So this is the total area of Mughal Empire now. Now I'm going to show you in 1857 where is our Mughal Empire. It's not there at all. Let me show you the map. Okay, so this is 1857, just some part before the first war of Indian independence, 1857. We don't have to get into much details right now. I'm just showing you the basic map. So basically the dark pink is East India Company, okay. So the dark pink is East India Company. So where is our Mughal Empire? The Mughal Empire in 1857 was practically restricted to the area of Red Fort. So in Delhi we have Red Fort, you obviously know that. So in 1857 the Mughal Empire was this much, just this much, restricted to Red Fort. So we will be discussing how this glorious Mughal Empire came to a decline with the advent of later Mughal rulers. So I'm going to start with Bahadur Shah, but let's discuss about the content. I'm going to show you the content table first. Okay, so here are the series of later Mughal rulers. We have Bahadur Shah, then we are going to discuss about Jahandar Shah. After Jahandar Shah, we are going to discuss about Farooq Siyar. Then Muhammad Shah, Ahmad Shah, Alamgir, Shah Jahan III, Shah Alam II, Akbar II, Bahadur Shah Zafar. Now, out of all these, there are some Mughal rulers like Rahat ul Darwaj, Rahat ul something Daula. So these princes, these Mughal rulers, they were just ruled or became the Mughal emperors for maybe just 3 or 4 months. So that is why I haven't included them in the list. They're not really important and they won't come for the exam. Now, out of these, Bahadur Shah 1 is important, Jahandar Shah is important, Farooq Siyar is important, Muhammad Shah is important, Ahmad Shah is important, Alamgir II is important, Akbar II is not that really important, and Shah Jahan III is not that really important. Akbar II is not important, Shah Alam is important, and Bahadur Shah is kind of important because he played a key role in 1857 revolt. So let's start with Bahadur Shah. Okay, so there is a difference between Bahadur Shah and Bahadur Shah Zafar. These are two different persons. Bahadur Shah was the first of the later Mughal rulers. Bahadur Shah Zafar was the last of Mughal rulers. So we will see them in details. So in the early Mughal rulers, you obviously know some of them. Okay, we have Babur, then we have Humayun, then we have Akbar, then we have Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. So Aurangzeb was the last of the early Mughal rulers. Now the difference between the early Mughal rulers and the later Mughal rulers is early Mughal rulers were really strong. Okay, of course they did have some vices here and there, but they were really strong. They expanded their empire, they focused on economy. Overall, the Mughal Empire reached its zenith during the uh, early Mughal rulers. Okay, so for example, Shah Jahan built this Taj Mahal, right? Fatehpur Sikri. Aurangzeb expanded his empire. So these were really strong rulers, the early Mughal rulers. Now, after Aurangzeb, starting with Bahadur Shah, we have a series of late Mughal rulers. So these were extremely weak minded, weak willed rulers. So we will start with Bahadur Shah I. Okay, so he was the first in category of the late or weak Mughal rulers. Then we will explore Jahandar Shah, Farooq Siyar, Muhammad Shah. Okay, Jahandar Shah, Farooq Siyar, Muhammad Shah, Ahmad Shah, Alamgir, Shah Jahan III, Shah Alam II, Akbar Shah II, and Bahadur Shah Zafar. You obviously know Bahadur Shah Zafar. So there is actually a difference between Bahadur Shah I and Bahadur Shah Zafar. Okay, so this was the first of the late Mughal rulers, and he was the last of all Mughal rulers. Okay, he was deposed of by the Britishers during after the 1857 war. Okay, after the war of 1857. Okay, you obviously know that. So for exams, this chapter is not that important. Okay, but some questions may come. Now the problem is that we don't have jobs and the competition is rising. So we have to explore and study in depth all of these topics. So first we will be discussing about Bahadur Shah I. Okay. Okay. So Bahadur Shah I. Okay. Bahadur Shah I. So he was the seventh Mughal ruler. Seventh Mughal ruler. Aurangzeb was the sixth Mughal ruler. Bahadur Shah I was the seventh Mughal ruler. Now Aurangzeb died in 1707. Okay, 1707. Aurangzeb died. Now 1707 is a very important date in the history of Indian subcontinent. Mughal Empire, okay, during the reign of Aurangzeb was the largest, one of the most prosperous kingdoms in the world. India contributed the highest to the world's GDP during the era of Aurangzeb. Okay, truly a golden age, truly a golden age. But after Aurangzeb, all the rulers were weak and Indian GDP went down, and so did the Mughal Empire. So Aurangzeb died in 1707. Remember this. This is a very important date. Okay, 1707. Now, after his death, there were three main rulers, three main princes. One was Muhammad Azam. Okay. Then we have Kam Baksh. Okay, Kam Baksh. And then we have Muazzam. Okay, now Azam and Kam Baksh was killed by Muazzam. So Muazzam became the seventh Mughal ruler. After Muazzam became the seventh Mughal ruler, he assumed the title of Bahadur Shah I. Okay, he assumed the title of Bahadur Shah I. So this is the Mughal Empire in 1710. 1710. Okay, 1710. This is the empire of Mughal Empire. Okay, this is the map of Mughal Empire. So as you can see, we have a lot of green. So basically, this is all Mughal Empire. Okay, all of this area is Mughal Empire. Now in the orange we have the Marathas. Okay, in the orange we have Marathas. So let's look in depth the region of Bahadur Shah I. Okay, so first we have to know that Muazzam, okay, Muhammad Azam, that one was princess in and of Aurangzeb, one of the son of Aurangzeb, was defeated by Muazzam in Jajua. Okay, Muhammad Azam was defeated by Muazzam in Jajua. This is a very important place, Jajua. Okay, and then another prince, that was Kam Baksh, he was defeated by Muazzam in Hyderabad. Okay, so that's all. That's two important details we have. Okay, Muazzam defeated Kam Baksh in Hyderabad, and Muazzam defeated Muhammad Azam in Jajua. So these are the two important places we have. Okay, and one important thing you have to know: 1707 is the time which is a year which Aurangzeb died. Very important date. Okay, so he ascended to the throne. Now Aurangzeb was a very nasty ruler. Okay, he was very intolerant. But on the other hand, okay, Aurangzeb was very intolerant. But Bahadur Shah, Prince Muazzam, was very secular. He was weak, but very secular and very tolerant. So what happened is he actually reversed many of the policies of his father. Okay, he actually reversed many of the policies of his father. So he even abolished jizya. So jizya was a tax on Hindus. So this tax was imposed maybe for pilgrimage, maybe for residence. So this was a tax on Hindus. by the Mughal rulers. So this tax was abolished by Bahadur Shah. So he was actually a very tolerant and secular ruler, but weak. He was a weak ruler. So then we have other powers like, of course, you know Marathas. They were a dominant power during the time of Aurangzeb and even became more powerful with the decline of Mughal Empire. So, as you can see, there were rulers like Rajput, Marathas, and Jats. So let's explore them, each of them in detail. Okay, so we will be discussing about the contemporary rulers of Bahadur Shah. So Bahadur Shah was ruling, and there were other rulers like the Rajputs, the Marathas, the Jat, and of course the Bundelas. So let's explore each of them in detail. So what happened is during the time of Bahadur Shah, as I mentioned, he was a tolerant and secular ruler. Okay, so he actually made amendments with many of these rulers. He said sorry, okay, anything that happened in the era of Aurangzeb was wrong. Let's be friends. Okay, so basically, we have the Jat leader, okay, Charuman. So he forgave them. He made an alliance with him. Okay, and then we have Chatrasal. He was a Bundela king. Okay, so basically, Bundelas and Jats are the rulers in the northern and central parts of India. So this is, let's say, India. Okay, so this is Kashmir, and this is the rest of India. Okay, so this is northeast India. So here in the Haryana region, we had the Jats. Okay, so we have the Jats. So their ruler was Charuman. Charuman. Okay, and then we have in the central region, in the near central region, we have the ruler called as Chatrasal. He was a Bundela ruler. Okay, so he was a friend of Jahangir. I'm not sure about that. But eventually they became enemies. The Mughal kingdom and the Bundelas became enemies. But under the under the reign of Bahadur Shah, they became friends. Okay, so that's we have to know. Now coming to the part called as the Marathas. So as I mentioned, there was a kingdom, the Maratha kingdom, established by great Shivaji. Okay, so the kingdom was established by Shivaji. Now after the death of Shivaji, he was succeeded by his son called as Shambhaji. Okay. Now Shambhaji also waged war against Aurangzeb. But however, Shambhaji was captured and executed by Aurangzeb. Now Shambhaji had a son, Shahu. Okay. So this was Shivaji. He established the Maratha Empire. He was succeeded by Shambhaji. Shambhaji. Okay. Shambhaji was executed by Aurangzeb. All right. Now, after Shambhaji, okay, his younger son was also imprisoned by Aurangzeb. His name was Shahu. Okay, so Shahu was imprisoned by Aurangzeb. He was a little minor when he was imprisoned. He and his mother was imprisoned by Aurangzeb. Now, after Aurangzeb died, Bahadur Shah released Shahu. Okay, he said sorry. He made amendments with them. Not exactly sorry. He said let's be friends. Okay, so you rule this part of Maratha kingdom. This area, whole area is mine. Okay, so let's make peace. Let's make amendments. So that's why he released Shahu. Okay, now he basically made peace with the Rajputs and other Hindu rulers. Okay, Rajputs, Jats, and Bundelas. Okay, he made peace with the Marathas, but with Sikhs he was very confirmative. He was very, what's the word I was looking? Very aggressive. Okay, he was very aggressive. So this is because there after Guru Gobind Singh died, a ruler chief of the Sikh was Banda Bahadur. Okay, Banda Bahadur. He was the ruler of Sikhs. Now Sikhs at this point were a bunch of raiding chieftains. They were plunderers. Okay, so basically, this area was plundered by the Sikhs. Okay, so this area was plundered by the Sikhs, and Bahadur Shah himself fought against. He himself camped against Banda Bahadur, and eventually, actually, he had even captured him. Okay, so basically, after Banda Bahadur was captured from a fort called as Lohagarh, he was publicly executed. Okay, he was tortured and publicly executed. So let me just repeat it again. So there were five major powers. Okay, one was Rajputs, then we have Jats, the Bundelas, the Marathas, and the Sikhs. So the first four, the Rajput, the Jats, Bundelas, and the Marathas, they were in good terms with Bahadur Shah, but the Sikhs were not. Okay, the Sikh leader Banda Bahadur was captured and later tortured and executed by Farooq Siyar, not by Bahadur Shah. Okay, so then Bahadur Shah died in 1712. He was already a very old man when he ascended to the throne. So he was buried in Moti Masjid, and now this Moti Masjid was built by Bahadur Shah himself. Okay, so now let's look at some MCQs. Okay, so we are going to solve some MCQs. So these are very important for exams like RRB, NTPC, RRB, JE, SSC, and all of them. So we have to solve per chapter at least 5 or 6 questions. These are very important for your exams. Okay, so the first question is the successor of Aurangzeb was Bahadur Shah I. Okay, so we don't have the titles, so we have Kambaksh. Kambaksh is wrong. Okay, Muhammad Azam was also killed. Kambaksh and Muhammad Azam was also killed. Okay, both of them were killed. Akbar II, wrong. Okay, Akbar II actually ruled somewhat in the 19th century. Okay, he was the Mughal ruler in the 19th century. So let's ignore Akbar II. Then we have Muhammad Shah Alam. Yeah, Muazzam Shah Alam. So this is the correct answer. Okay, the first correct answer is Muazzam Shah Alam. Okay, then we have the statements about Bahadur Shah I. Okay, so which of this statement is true about Bahadur Shah I? This is the second question. He made peace with Sikhs, Marathas, and Rajputs. Okay, so this statement is actually kind of wrong. Okay, because he never made peace with Sikh. Okay, so in place of Sikh, if it is Jat, then this statement is actually true. Now he led the charge against Banda Bahadur. Yes, that is actually true. He was relatively tolerant than Aurangzeb. Yes, he was very secular than Aurangzeb. He was tolerant than Aurangzeb. So the actual answer is all of the above. Now this statement is actually wrong. Okay, he made peace with Sikh. It should be Jats. Okay, it is actually error from my side. I'm sorry. Then we have the third question, the important Jat ruler contemporary to Bahadur Shah I. So as I mentioned, Jats were ruler in the northern part. Okay, northern part of, let's say, Haryana and Punjab region, the whole fertile regions. Okay, so the important Jat ruler contemporary to Bahadur Shah was Charuman. Okay, so the answer is C, that is Charuman. Which of these Mughal emperor is known as Shahi Bekhabar? Okay, so I didn't tell you this. Now, as I mentioned before, Bahadur Shah was a weak ruler. Okay, he was tolerant, he was secular, but he was a weak ruler. So that is why the nobles, his officers, named him Shahi Bekhabar, the person who doesn't know anything. Okay, he is clueless, completely clueless. Shahi Bekhabar. Okay, so the ruler was Bahadur Shah I. Okay, so let's look 2 or 3 more MCQs. Okay, so then the fifth question is the Sikh leader executed by Mughal emperor. Now there were some Sikh leaders, the Sikh leaders and gurus executed. One of them was Arjan Dev. Okay, Arjan Dev was executed. He was actually the first Sikh leader who was executed. Okay, Sikh leader or Sikh guru. Then we have Guru Tegh Bahadur. Okay, now after Guru Gobind Singh, okay, Guru Gobind Singh, okay, Guru Gobind Singh wasn't executed, he was actually assassinated. But Guru Gobind Singh was the last Guru of Sikhs, so you must know about this. He was the 10th Guru, the last Guru of Sikhs. Now, after Guru Gobind Singh, he was the last Guru, okay, Guru Gobind Singh. After him, there were a bunch of chieftains, and one of the chieftains was Banda Bahadur. Okay, Banda Bahadur. Okay, so this Banda Bahadur was actually a dacoit, a plunderer. He is revered by Sikhs, but technically he was a lutera. Okay, so he actually plundered the northwest parts of Mughal Empire. So he was actually captured from a fort called as Lohgar. Okay, Lohagar. It is somewhere around the foothills of Himalayas. So he was then tortured and executed. So the correct answer is actually Banda Bahadur. Okay, the correct answer is Banda Bahadur. So we will deal with them later. Okay, in the later stages when we talk about the Sikh Empire. It is actually coming in the course. Don't worry. The Maratha prince released by Mughal emperor. So as I mentioned before, Shivaji was the original ruler. When I say the original ruler, the first ruler of Maratha kingdom, and then he was succeeded by his son Shambhaji. Now Shambhaji was executed. okay, executed by Aurangzeb. Now, when he was executed, Aurangzeb also imprisoned his son, that is King Shahu. Okay, Shahu was imprisoned by Aurangzeb. Now, Shahu was imprisoned. So, after Aurangzeb's death, Bahadur Shah released Shahu. Okay, for good terms, he released Shahu. Okay, so the answer is Shahu 1. So then we have the seventh question. Let me just remove all these clumsy things. Okay, so when did Muazzam ascended to the throne? Muazzam is Bahadur Shah 1. Bahadur Shah 1 ascended to the throne when Aurangzeb died. Now, as I mentioned, Aurangzeb died in 1707. Okay, so Aurangzeb died in 1707 and Muazzam ascended to the throne in 1707. Then we have the last question, the famous Mundela ruler who started carving out his own kingdom during the 18th century. Okay, so as I mentioned, in the central regions, somewhere in between Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, we have this place called as Bundelkhand. Okay, so these kings were actually quite known for their art and architecture, especially in the regions of Orcha. Have you been to Orcha? It's a really wonderful place, magical place. So the Bundela ruler who started carving out his own empire, his own kingdom during the 18th century was Charuman. No, Charuman was a Jat ruler. Okay, so this is wrong. Shahuwan is basically Maratha ruler. Govind Rai was actually the friend or the brother of Prithviraj Chauhan. So this is also wrong. Then we have Chatrasal. Yes, the correct answer is Chatrasal. Excellent. Okay, so as you know that Aurangzeb died in 1707. After that, he was succeeded by his son Bahadur Shah. Now we have another weak ruler, that is Jahandar Shah. Okay, so Bahadur Shah died in 1712. Okay, so Bahadur Shah died in 1712 and he was succeeded by his son, that is Jahandar Shah. Now Bahadur Shah did have many sons. Okay, now these were all princes. One of them was Jahandar Shah. All of them fought and Jahandar Shah became the victorious one. He assumed the title of Jahandar Shah. He became the emperor. So he was the 8th Mughal emperor. Okay, so he was actually supported by a faction of Iranian nobles led by a guy called as Zulfikar. Okay, so this is something you have to know. This is something you have to understand. Let me just show you on my content. Okay, so as you can see, in 1712, Bahadur Shah died. Okay, he died in 1712, and then there was a war of succession, and the only ruler that came out successful, the only prince that came out successful was Bahadur Shah. Now, Bahadur Shah was supported by a faction of Iranian nobles. So there is something you have to know. So this is the king, and then we have here some nobles. So some of them were called Afghanis. Then we have Turanis. Then we have Hindustanis, and then there were Rajputs, and then there were Iranian nobles. So basically, there were many different kinds of nobles. Okay, some of them even Hindustan Muslims. Okay, Hindustani Muslims. So they had many different kinds of allies. Now, when a Mughal ruler died, the prince always used to seek the support of these nobles. Now, Bahadur Shah died, and his son Jahandar Shah was helped by a faction of Iranian nobles. And this noble group, this nobility was led by a guy called as Zulfikar Khan. Okay, so this group was led by a guy called as Zulfikar Khan. Okay, a very important guy. So after he came to power, he executed many of the rulers, that is, many of the princes, and Zulfikar Khan actually became the real ruler of the Mughal Empire. Jahandar Shah was a weak ruler. Okay, as I mentioned before, actually all of the late Mughal rulers were weak and incompetent. So the power was run by the nobles, and in this case, it was run by a guy called as Zulfikar Khan. Okay, so Jahandar Shah was a weak ruler, and the administration was controlled by Zulfikar Khan. Now, the important thing about these late Mughal rulers were, of course, they were weak. Okay, of course, they were weak, but they were actually very tolerant. They were very tolerant. So they allowed Hindus to build their temples. They actually removed jizya. Okay, so as I mentioned before, in our previous video lecture, we had seen that Bahadur Shah also had removed jizya. Okay, now under Zulfikar Khan, Jahandar Shah also removed jizya. Okay, he also abolished jizya. Okay, now there are some important things about the contemporary rulers like the Marathas, Jats, and Sikh. So we are going to see in them in detail. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so as far as the Rajputs are concerned, during this time, the Rajput kings were the most important kings were Ajit Singh as well as the Jai Singh. So Ajit Singh was of Marwar and Jai Singh was of Amber. So they were because of their loyalties to the Mughal kingdom, they were actually assigned as governors in Gujarat and Malwa. This is not really important. Okay, now coming to the Marathas. Okay, so Marathas were really becoming the prominent force. Now, at this point, the Maratha rulers were Shahu. The Maratha king was Shahu. Okay, so this is something I have mentioned before in the previous video lecture. So, if you haven't seen the lecture on Bahadur Shah, please go and see. It's a very important lecture. Okay, so Shivaji was the first ruler of Maratha Empire. Okay, then he was succeeded by his son Shambhaji. Okay, brave Shambhaji. He was executed by Aurangzeb. After he was executed, Shahu became the king. Shahu was helped by a person called as Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath. So we will deal about the Peshwas and the Maratha kings later. So at this point, the Maratha kings were becoming really powerful. Okay, so at this point, the Mughal rulers just wanted to avoid the southern and the Deccan regions. So that is why they said to Marathas, okay, you can tax these areas. Okay, so these areas you can tax, but at the same time you can't plunder any other areas in the Mughal kingdom. So this is the Mughal kingdom. Okay, so this is Kashmir and this is India. This is Assam. This is Gujarat. This is okay. So basically, here is our Maratha Empire, Maratha Kingdom, and this is whole is the Mughal Empire. So the Bahadur Shah, Jahandar Shah had a very tolerant policy. He asked the Marathas, okay, so you can tax all these regions, okay, all these regions, but you can't plunder them. And one more thing, the tax collection will be made by Mughal officials, and then it will be handed over to Marathas. Okay, so there is something else. Overall, the rule under Jahandar Shah was very secular, very tolerant, but there was a when regard to the administration, especially the economy. So we had this problem of Irza. Okay, so there was this problem of Irza. So it is pronounced like Ijara, but some sources say as Irza. So Ijara. So basically, this is a type of tax where this is the land, okay, and the cultivators cultivate the land. Okay, they cultivate the land. Now this is the Mughal ruler, and he appoints a middleman. Okay, so the middleman actually takes the money from the cultivator, the farmer, okay, and he pays a fixed amount to the Mughal ruler. For example, the fixed amount is 100 rupees. Okay, so the middleman has the choice to extract 1000 rupees from the farmer, but only give 100 rupees to the Mughal emperor. So that's how it worked. So that's the problem was Ijara system. So under Zulfikar, this actually eroded the economy. This actually eroded the agriculture base. So it was becoming a problem. Okay, so this is actually enough for exams like RRB, NTPC. Okay, so let's deal some MCQs. Okay. So Jahandar Shah succeeded which Mughal emperor? We obviously know it was Bahadur Shah I. Okay, so the answer is D, Bahadur Shah I. So what is Ijara? So as I mentioned before, this is the land, and then we have the farmer, okay, and then we have the middleman, and then we have the Mughal emperor. Okay, so this is the Mughal emperor. So he has asked to give him 100 rupees every month or every year. So the middleman collects let's say 1000 rupees, but he definitely have to pay 100 rupees to the Mughal emperor. Okay, so that's the deal. So the problem is the middleman actually used to collect a lot of money from the farmers, which was actually detrimental to the whole agriculture economy. But overall, to the Mughal treasury, they were only getting 100 rupees. So that was the problem. Okay, so the what is Ijara? Taxes on horses? That is wrong. Copper means minted during Jahandar Shah region? That is wrong. Taxes on slave trade? That is wrong. Middlemen extract revenue from farmers and pay a fixed price to the government. This is actually right. Okay, so the correct answer is D. Which of the statement prove that Jahandar Shah wanted cordial relations with neighboring rulers? So the Marathas were allowed to tax regions in Deccan, that is true. Jizya was abolished, that is true. The Rajputs and Jats were given high position in the government, that is actually true. So the correct answer is again D. Okay, so the correct answer is again D. Bahadur Shah region was brought to an end by. Okay, so who ended Jahandar Shah's region? So Jahandar Shah was the father. That's not true. Shah Jahan III. That's not true. So the immediate successor was Farooq Shiar. So the answer is Farooq Shiar. So there is two more questions. Okay, the factions that supported Jahandar Shah. So as I mentioned before, there were many factions, many nobles. Okay, one was the Iranian faction, the Afghanis, the Turanis, the Hindustani Muslims, the Rajputs. So there were many nobles. So out of these nobles, the nobility that supported Jahandar Shah was the Iranian nobles led by Zulfikar Khan. So the answer is Iranian party, okay, Zulfikar Khan. Then we have the sixth question. During the reign of Jahandar Shah, these events happened. So what was the event happened? Jizya was abolished. Okay, that is true. Irani group rose to prominence. Yes, as I mentioned before, the Iranian nobility rose to power. So this is true. Todar Mal's land revenue system was abolished. Okay, so Todar Mal's land revenue system was started under Akbar. So it was removed by Zulfikar Khan and started this Ijara system. So this is actually true. Todar Mal's land revenue system was abolished. Okay. So the answer is all of the above. Okay, the answer is all of the above, that is D. So Farooq Siyar was supported by a faction of nobles called as the Sayyid brothers. Okay, so let's explore them. Okay, so Farooq Siyar defeated his uncle Jahandar Shah. Now, as you may remember, Jahandar Shah was supported by a faction of nobility called as the Iranian nobility. Iranian nobility was led by a guy called as Zulfikar Khan. Let me explain you better. So here we have Farooq Siyar. He was supported by the Sayyid brothers, okay, and he fought against Jahandar Shah. Okay, he fought against Jahandar Shah. Jahandar Shah was supported by the Irani nobles, and Irani nobles was led by a guy called as Zulfikar. Zulfikar, okay. Now Farooq Siyar defeated Jahandar Shah, and Zulfikar was executed. Now Farooq Siyar became the Mughal ruler. He became the ninth Mughal ruler. Now, for the support from Sayyid brothers, the Sayyid brothers, that is Abdul Khan and Hussein Ali Khan, they were awarded with plum posting. Now, Abdul Khan, that is Sayyid brother 1, he was appointed as the Wazir, and Hussein Ali Khan as the Mir Baksh. Okay, Abdul Khan was appointed as the Wazir and Hussein Ali Khan as the Mir Baksh. Now the thing about the Sayyid brothers is you may have learned about them in the history, but despite their unpopularity, they were actually very tolerant and secular rulers. Okay, secular nobles. Now Farooq Siyar also was to an extent very tolerant and secular rulers. Okay, so what we have to learn here is there was a faction, or there was a group called as the Sikhs. At this point, they were not really a dominant force, but they were actually a bunch of dacoits. So this is the Mughal Empire. Okay, so we have the Mughal Empire. So this whole comprised of the Mughal Empire. Now at this point, many commanders, many nobles were carving out their own empire, carving out their own kingdom. For example, we have the Bengal Nawab. Okay, so Bengal was trying to be a separate independent kingdom, and slowly we have the Oudh kingdom, and then we have the Deccan kingdom, the Hyderabad state. Okay, so slowly many kingdoms were disintegrating and going away. Now, as you can see here in this region, okay, in the Punjab and Lahore region, okay, so here we have the Sikhs led by Banta Bahadur. Now, Banta Bahadur raided the Mughal kingdom, and that is why Bahadur Shah himself led a charge against Banta Bahadur. Banta Bahadur was defeated, and under the reign of Farooq Siyar, he was executed. He was publicly tortured, okay, and then he was executed. So there is one more important event. Okay, so one more important event that happened in 1717. This is a very important event for the coming future generation of India. So this important event is about a farman given by Farooq Siyar to the Britishers. So let's explore that. So in 1717, Farooq Siyar granted privileges to East Indian Company. So basically the privilege was that Bengal, Bombay and Madras. Bengal, Bombay and Madras. So these three places, Bengal, Bombay and Madras. Now these three are the prominent Indian cities. Back then it was not that really important. Back then it was a bunch of trading ports. And here Farooq Siyar gave a dumb permission that the Britishers can trade without any custom duties, without paying any taxes, nearly zero taxes. And they can mint their own coins. Okay, they can mint their own coins. And there was also one more privilege that given in this farman. The farman was that they can fortify Kolkata. So Kolkata was basically a small port at this point, and fortification basically means that you basically add layers of security. You raise the walls, you upload the cannons. Okay, so basically you are defying the whole Mughal emperor. So it was actually a very dumb move. So this was one of the reasons why we were ruled by the Britishers. One was a farman that was given by the Jahangir. Okay, we will deal with that later. Now this farman was given by Farooq Siyar. Now this was the most dumbest thing done by Farooq Siyar. Okay, so people, I won't expect much from them because these were all weak Mughal rulers. So later, Farooq Siyar was actually deposed of by Sayyid brothers. Now, Sayyid brothers was helped by a person called as Balaji Vishwanath. Now, as you may remember, we have Shivaji, okay, Shivaji, the founder of the Maratha kingdom. He was succeeded by a guy called as his son called as Shambaji. Okay, Shambaji was succeeded by a person called as Shahu. Shahu was the son of Shambaji. Okay, so this was a hereditary rule, nothing special. But Shahu was helped to gain the power by defeating various factions led by Tarabai. Okay, there was another faction of Shambaji led by Tarabai. Okay, so Tarabai was defeated by a faction led by Shahu, who was held by a guy called as Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath. Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath. Okay, so this guy defeated Tarabai and her whole entourage and made sure that Shahu became the absolute ruler of Maratha kingdom. And that is why Shahu gave him most of the powers. So slowly and slowly the Peshwa became the absolute ruler of the Maratha kingdom. Okay, so that's how it worked, but we will deal about them later when we look into the Maratha history. So Sayyid brothers took the help of Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath to depose of Farooq Siyar, because Farooq Siyar was slowly becoming paranoid about the Sayyid brothers. He wanted to get rid of Sayyid brothers. So Sayyid brothers got rid of him. Okay. So after Farooq Siyar was executed by Sayyid brothers, two more redundant rulers came up. Okay. One was, let me just show you. One was Rafiud Darwadat and Rafiud Daula. So two princes came and they died in quick succession. Okay, so Farooq Siyar died, and Farooq Siyar was the first Mughal ruler who was executed by a noble. This was a great thing. This was not a great thing. This is a bad thing in Mughal history. Never ever was a Mughal king ever assassinated or executed by a noble. Okay, so we will deal with MCQs. So this was all about Farooq Siyar. So let's deal with MCQs. Okay, so Farooq Siyar overthrew this Mughal emperor. So as you may remember, Farooq Siyar, with the help of Sayyid brothers, he deposed of which guy? Jahandar Shah. Okay, who were the Sayyid brothers? So the Sayyid brothers were Uzba, nope, this is wrong. Rahmat Khan, nope. Ali Khan, Hamatullah Khan, nope. Abdullah Khan, yes, and Hussein Ali Khan. Okay, Abdullah Khan later became the Wazir and he became the Mir Baksh. Jizya was abolished during the reign of these emperors. So it was abolished during the era of Farooq Siyar. Okay, Jahandar Shah also abolished, and Bahadur Shah also abolished the dreaded tax, that is Jizya. So the answer is all of the above. The Sayyid brothers dethroned Farooq Siyar with the help of. So Sayyid brothers was helped by a guy called as Balaji Vishwanath. Okay, so the last option is correct. That is Balaji Vishwanath. Okay, so there is three more questions we have. The Sikh leader executed under the order of Farooq Siyar was Guru Gobind Singh. Nope, Guru Gobind Singh was the last Guru of Sikh, but he was not executed. He was actually assassinated, and not in the time of Farooq Siyar. It is asking the question that who was the Sikh leader who was executed under the order of Farooq Siyar? It was actually Banda Bahadur. Okay, the answer is Banta Bahadur. The first Mughal emperor to be killed by nobles. Unfortunate, it is Farooq Siyar. Okay, this was done by Sayyid brothers with the help of Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath. Okay, so when was the British India Company given the Farman to trade by Farooq Siyar? So it was 1717. That is the Farman of 1717. A really bad Farman for India. Okay, so that was it about the Farooq Siyar. Okay, so after Farooq Siyar, we are going to look into Muhammad Shah. Okay, so as you may remember, Farooq Siyar was executed by Sayyid brothers. And Farooq Siyar, the reason why Farooq Siyar fell is because he was trying to throw away the Sayyid brothers, because Sayyid brothers were literally the kingmakers. And the Sayyid brothers took the help of Balaji Vishwanath, the Peshwa of Maratha Empire, okay, and they got rid of Farooq Siyar. So let me show you with an example with a diagram. So this is Farooq Siyar, okay, and these are Sayyid brothers. Sayyid brothers took the help of Balaji Vishwanath, okay, they took the help of Balaji Vishwanath, and after that they deposed of Farooq Siyar. Okay, and later they executed him. First of all, they blinded him, they imprisoned him, and they executed him. Okay, so this was the first time in Mughal history that a Mughal emperor was executed. Okay, so after Farooq Siyar was executed, then the Sayyid brothers, okay, the Sayyid brothers bought two more Mughal rulers. One was Rajat ul something, and other was Rafat also something. Not really important. So as you can see, Farooq Siyar was the ninth Mughal emperor, okay, and Muhammad Shah, okay, the later one is the 12th Mughal emperor, okay, 12th Mughal emperor. So there is a gap between these two. For example, we don't have the 10th and the 11th. The 10th and the 11th were quite two young princes. One died of tuberculosis and other died of excessive consumption of opium and dysentery. Okay, so these were the 10th and the 11th ruler were not really important. The 12th one is a considerable important figure, that is Muhammad Shah. So let us have a look. Okay, so as you can see, this is Muhammad Shah, okay, the 12th Mughal ruler. And let me just teach you the history, a bit of history. After Farooq Siyar was blinded and executed by Sayyid brothers with help of Balaji Vishwanath, so there were two young princes that came. Okay, one was Rafiud Daraj and other one was Rafiud Dola. It's not worth remembering their names, they are not really important, and they ruled for a short time, and after that they died because of natural cases. They were not killed, they died of natural cases. So Sayyid brothers brought in another ruler. So this was Roshan Akhtar, okay, this guy's name was Roshan Akhtar, and when he ascended to the throne, he took the title of Muhammad Shah. Okay, Roshan Akhtar ascended to the throne and he took the title of Muhammad Shah. Now Muhammad Shah was also a puppet of Sayyid brothers. Okay, Farooq Siyar was a puppet of Sayyid brothers. Now Muhammad Shah is also a puppet of Sayyid brothers. Okay, so Farooq Siyar was killed because he tried to free himself from Sayyid brothers. Now the same thing Muhammad Shah was also doing. He tried to free himself from Sayyid brothers, but this time he was smart. He didn't do it alone. He took the help of a guy called as Asaf Jah. Okay, Asaf Jah. He was a very powerful noble. Asaf Jah was a very powerful noble. So Muhammad Shah took the help of Asaf Jah, and they too, okay, they too uh, got a handshake. Okay, they took a handshake, and afterwards they executed the Sayyid brothers. The Sayyid brothers were killed. Okay, they were thrown out. The infamous Sayyid brothers were thrown out. Okay, and they were killed. So after Sayyid brothers were killed, Asaf Jah was given the title of Nizam-e-Mulk. Okay, Nizam ul Mulk. So basically, it means that he was the prime minister. Okay, it was the title of the prime minister or a governor. It doesn't really matter what it is. So Asaf Jah was a powerful ruler. He, with the help of he along with Muhammad Shah, deposed of the Sayyid brothers and have had them executed. So Sayyid brothers were gone. Now the Nizam Mulk, the supreme leader or the prime minister of the Mughal Empire, was now Asaf Jah. Okay, so after this happened, now there is something you should know. Muhammad Shah was a very weak ruler. Okay, so let us explore in the next slide. Now, after getting rid of Sayyid brothers, Muhammad Shah was focused on two things. wine, and women. That's the only thing he was bothered about. Okay, so that is why he was nicknamed the title that was Rangila. He was known as the Rangila. Okay, the Rangila Mughal emperor, because he was only interested in wine and women. That's the only thing he was interested in. And slowly, he was occupied in luxurious things, and he threw lavish parties. And this led to the decline of Mughal Empire. So he was a weak ruler, he was incompetent, and he later accused his friend, that is Asaf Jah, of treason. So Asaf Jah decided to leave Delhi. Okay, so the Mughal rulers were in Delhi. Okay, they ruled from Delhi. So Asaf Jah, the Nizam ul Mulk, okay, so he was accused of treason, and that is why he left Delhi and he carved out his own empire. So this was the empire he carved out. So this was a small kingdom that was initially a small kingdom and later grew to a big kingdom, that is Hyderabad. Okay, so Nizam Asaf Jah started building his own area of rule in 1724. 1724. Now there are two more important rulers. Okay, so there was another guy called as Murshid Quli Khan. So he became the Bengal Nawab. Okay, he became the Bengal Nawab. And this process was actually started in 1717. Okay, so in the time of Farooq Siyar, Murshid Ali Khan actually started building his own kingdom in Bengal. Similarly, there was a guy called as Sadat Khan. So he built this empire, not empire, kingdom, Awadh kingdom. Okay, so the Awadh state or the Awadh kingdom was established by Sadat Khan. So the Mughal emperor, the Mughal empire, so it was this big, is now, as you can see in the green, it is only this much. Okay, so it was a decline of Mughal empire both in economy and as well as in territory. So this was the decline. Now came the most dangerous thing during these times for the Mughal empire, the people called as Marathas. So as you can see, earlier Maratha kingdom was a small state, okay, only up to here. Now they have expanded, okay, so now they have expanded. So they were threatening the Mughal emperors, and this guy, Baji Rao, okay, so we will deal with him later, okay, so we will be studying about him later. Baji Rao raided the Mughal empire and reached up to the gates of Delhi. Okay, so he reached up to the gates of Delhi. Now, apart from Bajirao, there was one more threat from the northwest region. It was the threat of Nadir Shah. Okay, so he came from here. Nadir Shah came from here. So why he came and what happened? Let's have a look. Okay, so in 1738, okay, it can be 1739 also. There is actually a difference of date. Okay, 1738 was somewhere between 1738 or 1739. Nadir Shah invaded Delhi. Okay, Nadir Shah invaded India. So Nadir Shah was from here. Okay, that he was a Persian. He was the emperor of the Persian kingdom. And why he invaded? Because his empire, the Persian empire, was in decay. So he had loans to pay and he couldn't pay. So he thought, how about invading India? Because India was weak. This is because the northwest area, okay, this area was always very resistive. I mean, there was always rebellion going on in these areas. Say, you may have remembered Muhammad of Ghori, Muhammad of Ghazni, and even the Mongols, the Mughals, all came from this area. So this area was always quite troublesome. The Mughal emperors like Aurangzeb had an immense number of fortifications here. Okay, they had security, they had good security apparatus. They actually fortified the whole area. They made this whole northwest area very secure. But weak Mughal rulers, starting from Bahadur Shah, then Jahandar Shah, Farooq Siyar, and even Muhammad Shah, they didn't do anything. So Nadir Shah knew that Mughal empire was weak now. It was the time to plunder it, and he did it in 1739. Okay, he did it in 1739. So he invaded in 1739 or 1738. There is actually a doubt here because some sources say it is 1739 or some sources say it is 1738. But let's keep it as 1739. Okay, so he invaded, and the Mughal armies, okay, the Mughal armies under Muhammad Shah fought against the Persian Empire, that is of Nadir Shah. They fought, and the place they fought was called as Karnal. Okay, Karnal. somewhere near Punjab, this place Karnal. Okay, and the Mughal army was defeated. Okay, the Mughal army was defeated, and after defeating the Mughal army, Nadir Shah plundered Delhi a lot. Okay, even way bigger horrific massacres continued that was parallel to the massacres that was done by Taimur. So Nadir Shah plundered, captured Delhi, and he took away the Peacock Throne and the Kohinoor Diamond. So if you remember what is a Peacock Throne, the Peacock Throne was a throne on which the Mughal emperors used to sit. Okay, and that throne was taken away by Nadir Shah. And also the Kohinoor Diamond, the famous Kohinoor Diamond, was also taken away by him. Okay, now there is something else you should know. So in this battle, Muhammad Shah was also captured. Okay, so Muhammad Shah was later released. Okay, after negotiation. Now, after releasing Muhammad Shah and taking back lot of loot from India, Nadir Shah went back to Persia. In Persia, somewhere near Persia, he was actually assassinated by his own soldiers and relatives. And Nadir Shah, after the assassination of Nadir Shah, there came a guy called as Ahmad Shah Abdali. Okay, so this was all about Muhammad Shah. Let's do some MCQs. Okay, so before we do these MCQs, there is something I actually want to teach you. It is quite interesting. So as you can see, have you seen this movie Bajirao Mastani? Okay, so these are the pictures of that movie. So basically, Ranveer Singh was Bajirao. Okay, he was the Peshwa Bajirao. Now, as you may remember, Shivaji was the founder of Maratha kingdom. Okay, and after him, the next ruler was Shambhaji. Shambhaji, okay. Shivaji's son Shambhaji was the next ruler, and Shambhaji was executed by Aurangzeb. Shambhaji was succeeded by his son Shahu. Okay, so Shahu had problem in getting to the throne. Okay, so there were many factions led by a person called as Tarabai. So Tarabai and her factions were defeated by Shahu and his friend called as Balaji Vishwaram. Balaji Vishwanath. Okay, so basically this is Shahu. Okay, so this guy is Shahu. This guy is Peshwa. So Shahu was helped by a guy called as Balaji Vishwanath. Balaji Vishwanath. And his son was Balaji. Oh, I'm sorry. His son was Bajirao. And he is Bajirao. Okay, so he is Bajirao. Now, so who is this guy? So as I mentioned before, Asaf Jah founded the Deccan Empire, the Hyderabad state, the Deccan Empire. So this is Asaf Jah. Okay, so this is Asaf Jah. If you see this movie now, you will understand all perspective very clearly. Okay, so let's start with MCQs. Okay, so the first question is the title taken by Roshan Akhtar was. So the title taken was Muhammad Shah. Okay, you obviously it's a very easy question. The title taken by Roshan Akhtar was Muhammad Shah. Okay, so the Sadat Khan is associated with this region. So as I mentioned before, Sadat Khan was the ruler of Awadh state. He was the founder of Awadh state. So the answer is Awadh. That is option A. Who was Nizamul Mulk? So the Nizamul Mulk was Alivardi Khan. Nope. Asaf Jah. Yes, the correct answer is Asaf Jah. This Maratha Peshwa was a contemporary of Muhammad Shah. So, which one was it? Nope. Balaji Vishwanath died early. Not early. He died before, I think, before the coming of Muhammad Shah, he died. And so, the correct answer is Bajirao 1. Okay, that was Ranveer Singh of the movie Bajirao Mastani. Okay, so let us do 4 more MCQs. Okay, so the next question is when was the Hyderabad state established? So Hyderabad state was established by Nizam-e-Mulk Asaf Jah. So it was established in 1724. Okay, when did Nadir Shah invaded India? So we do have a choice, that is 1739. Okay, 1739 it is. The nickname of Mughal Emperor Muhammad Shah was, as I mentioned before, it was Rangila. So it is quite important. So the answer is Rangila. Okay. Okay, so after Muhammad Shah, the next person, the 13th Mughal ruler was Ahmad Shah. Okay, so what is so special about Ahmad Shah? So during this guy's time, Ahmad Shah Abdali invaded India. Okay, so let's explore. Okay, so after the death of Muhammad Shah, the next ruler, the next Mughal emperor was Ahmad Shah. Now there is a difference between Ahmad Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali. Remember, Ahmad Shah was a Mughal ruler. Ahmad Shah Abdali was an invader. Okay, Ahmad Shah was a Mughal ruler. Ahmad Shah Abdali was an invader from Afghanistan. Okay, so Ahmad Shah, like his predecessor, was a weak ruler. He was incompetent and weak ruler. So that is why the administration was run by a guy called as Firoz Jung III. Okay, it was run by Firoz Jung III. Now, Firoz Jung III was the grandson of Nizam-e-Mulk Asaf Jah. So you may remember Asaf Jah. Okay, he was Nizam-e-Mulk and he carved out his own kingdom, that is Hyderabad Kingdom. Okay, so he was the king of Hyderabad Kingdom. So later his grandson, that is Firoz Jung III, was the Imad-e-Mulk. So Imad-e-Mulk is basically your wazir or the greatest minister of the Mughal Empire. Now at this time, there was this empire, that is Durrani Empire. Okay, and the king of Durrani Empire was Ahmad Shah Abdali. So he invaded the Mughal Empire. So as you can see from here, from the death of Aurangzeb, which was a total Mughal empire full of green, fully green. Now it has broken into many kingdoms like Awadh, Bengal Nawabs, the Hyderabad, and of course the Marathas, and of course the independent Rajput kings. So Ahmad Shah Abdali invaded, okay, from the northwest province, northwest regions, okay, and the Mughals were weak, of course, as usual, and they were defeated. And to stop the plunder of Ahmad Shah, Multan and Punjab were gifted to the Durrani Empire. Okay, Ahmad Shah gifted Multan and Punjab to Ahmad Shah Abdali. Okay, Multan and Punjab were gifted to the Durrani Empire. So during these times, Imad-e-Mulk, that is Firoz Jung III, had become very powerful. So he actually took the help of Maratha chieftain, that is Sada Shiva Rao Bhau. Sada Shiva Rao Bhau. Okay, so Sada Shiva Rao Bhau was a Maratha chieftain, and he was a very strong, powerful chieftain. And in the later stages, he is going to fight Ahmad Shah Abdali. Okay, Sada Shiva Rao, he is going to fight Ahmad Shah Abdali in the Battle of Panipat. We will deal with that later. Okay, so basically, Imad-e-Mulk, that is Firoz Jung III, asked the help of Maratha chief Sada Shiva Rao Bhau to depose Ahmad Shah. Ahmad Shah was a weak ruler, so Imad-ul-Mulk decided he has to be deposed of. We need to get this guy off. Okay, so Ahmad Shah was replaced by a guy called as Alamgir II. So let's do some MCQs, but before we do the MCQs, there is some pictures I have to show you. Okay, so this is Ahmad Shah Abdali. Okay, this is Ahmad Shah Abdali, played by Sanjay Dutt. Okay, this is Ahmad Shah Abdali, and this is Sada Shiva Bhau. Okay, Sada Shiva Bhau was a able general under Nana Sahib. Okay, so we will deal with Maratha history later, but in 1761 they are going to fight. Okay, in 1761 they are going to fight. So basically, Sada Shiva Bhau helped Imad-e-Mulk, that is Firoz Jung Imad-e-Mulk, to get rid of Ahmad Shah. Okay, Ahmad Shah, and remember, Ahmad Shah gifted Multan and Punjab to Ahmad Shah Abdali. Okay, so let's do some MCQs, 1 or 2 MCQs, that's all. Okay, so the first question is, who was the Imad-e-Mulk of the Mughal Empire under Ahmad Shah? So the answer is Firoz Jung III, the invader from Afghanistan who attacked the Mughal Empire during Ahmad Shah tenure. So Nadir Shah is wrong, because Nadir Shah died in 1748, and so the answer is Ahmad Shah Abdali. Muhammad of Ghazni, it was around in the 10th century. Again, Muhammad of Ghori was again in the 11th century. So the correct answer is Ahmad Shah Abdali. Okay, so now let's discuss about the 14th Mughal emperor, that is Alamgir II. Okay, so Alamgir II was put on throne by Imad-e-Mulk. So you already know who is Imad-e-Mulk, that is Firoz Jung III. Okay, now once again, Ahmad Shah Abdali invaded. So this is Durrani Empire, and from the northwest region he invaded India. So this time he recognized the throne of Mughal Empire. So that is Alamgir, the Mughal Emperor Alamgir, on conditions like Alamgir should be giving his daughter, okay, his favorite daughter, as a bride for his son. Okay, the name of his son was Timur Shah Durrani. Okay, Timur Shah Durrani. So basically, Alamgir gave his daughter as a bride to Timur Shah Durrani. Timur Shah Durrani was the son of Ahmad Shah Abdali. Okay, so there is something else you should know. Ahmad Shah Abdali also appointed a guy called as Najib ud Daula. Najib ud Daula as the Mir Baksh. Now, Mir Baksh is basically the military commander of the empire before returning back to the Mughal, before returning back to Afghanistan. Okay, so Ahmad Shah Abdali appointed Najib ud Daula as the Mir Bakshi of the empire before returning back to Afghanistan. Now, there is something you should see now. As you can see, all of the empires, all of the kingdoms from the Kingdom, the Awadh Kingdom, the Bengal Nawab, and the Hyderabad Kingdom, all of them are marked as yellow. So, this is because at this time, Marathas was the greatest power. Okay, Marathas under Nana Sahib and Sadashiva Bhau was the greatest power in India. So all the kings, the Mughal emperor, the Awadh king, the Bengal Nawab, and the Hyderabad Sultan, the Hyderabad Nizam, all bowed down to Marathas. Okay, remember this. All of them, the Mughals, the Awadh kings, the Bengal Nawabs, and the Hyderabad kingdom, all just they just accepted that the Marathas are the rulers of India. Okay, so Alamgir. So we will deal with Marathas later. So for the time being, you should know that Alamgir was killed by his wazir, that is Imad Mulk. Okay, Imad Mulk, that is Firoz Jung III, killed Alamgir II. Okay, so let's do some MCQ. There is only one MCQ that you have to know. Okay, so before we discuss MCQs, there are some pictures from the movie Panipat I have to show. So at the starting of the movie, we see a scene. Okay, so this is basically Alamgir II, the Mughal emperor who is sleeping in Red Fort. So he's awakened by the sound of cannons. So the cannon sound is because Sada Shiva Bhau, the Maratha commander, is invading Red Fort. Okay, invading Delhi and is going to capture Red Fort. So this is Ahmad Shah Abdali. So these two are going to have a fight in 1761 in Panipat. And this is Najibud-Dawla. Okay, so you will see in a scene that Ahmad Shah Abdali is having a verbal talk with Najibud-Dawla that he wants to make a treaty with Sada Shiva Bhau. Okay, so let's do some MCQs. Okay, so there is only one MCQ. Okay, so who was the son of Ahmad Shah Abdali? So the answer is Taimur Shah Durrani. So basically, Alamgir was murdered, okay, by Imad-ud-Dawla. Imad-e-Mulk, I'm sorry, Imad-e-Mulk. Imad-e-Mulk was Firoz Jung, okay, remember this, Firoz Jung III. So Firoz Jung III was the grandson of Asaf Jah. Asaf Jah was the Nizam of Deccan. So basically, he was the ruler of the Hyderabad area. Okay, so basically, Alamgir was executed by Firoz Jung, okay, and after that, he installed Shah Jahan III. Shah Jahan III was installed by Firoz Shah, that is basically the Imad-e-Mulk. Now, Firoz Shah, after that, only thing we have to know about this guy that he just ruled for just 1 year, okay, and nearly 1 year, and he was deposed by the Maratha leader, that is Sadashiva Bhau. Okay, so basically he was deposed by Sadashiva Bhau. So basically this was all about Shah Jahan III. Just we can look into the content, but there is nothing much important about him. So let's explore that also. So Alamgir was murdered by Imad-e-Mulk, Firoz Jung, and he chose Shah Jahan III as the next Mughal ruler. However, he was deposed by Marathas. That's all. Okay, so now let's explore about Shah Alam II. Okay, so out of all the Mughal rulers, this guy was genuinely the most insulted, the most humiliated one. His daughters were stripped, they were raped, he himself was blinded, tortured. So out of all Mughal emperors, this guy was the most humiliated one. Let's explore. Okay, so as you already know that the Marathas under Nana Sahib and especially under his commander Sadashiva Bhau expanded. Okay, their kingdom expanded. So as you can see, all of them is in yellow. Okay, so all of them is in yellow. Now there is something you should know that earlier Mughal the earlier Mughal ruler was Shah Jahan II. Shah Jahan II was deposed by Sadashiva Bhau. Okay, Sadashiva Bhau deposed this ruler, that is Shah Jahan II. Now there is something else you should know. Ahmad Shah Abdali, okay, he had invaded India in 1756. Okay, so basically when he invaded India in 1756, he made sure that Indian Mughal emperor, okay, the Mughal emperor is basically his servant now. So that is why he made his son to marry his Mughal emperor's daughter. For example, we have the Mughal emperor, okay, and he was made to marry his daughter to Ahmad Shah Abdali's son. Okay, so basically the Mughals became the in-laws of the Afghans. Now Ahmad Shah Abdali also did one more thing. He made a guy called as Najibullah as the Mir Baksh. Mir Baksh is basically the military commander. He became the military commander. Nawab Najibullah basically became the Mir Baksh of the Mughal kingdom, the Mughal empire. Okay, so basically Najibullah basically became, he was an Afghan, he basically became the Mir Baksh of the Mughal kingdom. Now Sadashiva Rao invaded Delhi. Okay, Sadashiva Rao is basically the Maratha kingdom, Maratha commander. He invaded Delhi and he removed Najibullah. Najibullah rushed back to Afghanistan and invited Ahmad Shah Abdali to please come back and help him out. Ahmad Shah Abdali came back and he fought with the Marathas. Okay, Ahmad Shah Abdali fought with the Marathas in the fateful battle called as Battle of Panipat, the third battle of Panipat, 1761. Okay, 1761. Okay, so let's explore in detail. So Marathas led by Sadashiva Rao Bhau annexed most of the Mughal territories in northern India. Okay, and the Mughal ruler Shah Jahan II was deposed of by Peshwa Nana Sahib. Okay, so we have learned that, and then we also learned that when Shah Jahan II was deposed, his son, not his son, Alamgir's son, that is Ali Gaur. Okay, so Ali Gaur actually, Ali Gaur was made the new Mughal ruler. Ali Gaur took the title of Shah Alam. Shah Alam II. Okay, so basically what happened is there was a guy called as Najibullah. He was the Mir Bakshi of the Mughal kingdom. When Sadashiva Rao and the Marathas invaded Delhi, Najibullah was thrown away. Najibullah ran back to Afghanistan, invited Ahmad Shah Abdali to come back to India. Ahmad Shah Abdali came back to India. He defeated Marathas in the Battle of Panipat, in the third Battle of Panipat, 1761. Remember that, it's quite important. 1761, Battle of Panipat. So Ahmad Shah Abdali defeated the Marathas, okay, in 1761. So basically, Ali Gaur, okay, I mean Shah Alam was basically under the protection of the Marathas. Now Marathas after 1761 were defeated. They were without power, so Shah Alam also was insecure. Shah Alam was thrown away from Delhi. So as you can see, in 1756, we have the whole of India nearly in yellow and dark yellow. So basically this was the Maratha Empire, and these are the Mughal kingdom. So it's Mughal Empire, and this is Awadh Kingdom, this is the Bengal Nawabs and the Hyderabad Nawabs. So basically they were all under the Marathas. The Marathas were the paramount power. 1756. Okay, 1756. They were the height of the glory. Marathas did wonders. Okay, so basically they started from here, small area somewhere in Maratha, somewhere in Pune and that area, and they just expanded like this. They even reached up to Lahore. They of course captured Delhi. They reached up to Lahore. Okay, and in 1761 they had to fight Ahmad Shah Abdali. Ahmad Shah Abdali defeated Marathas. So as you can see, the Mughal Empire is shrunk now in 1768. The Marathas are also, of course, they were still in power, but that glorious days were over. So in 1764, there is something else you should know. Battle of Buxar was fought. 1764, Battle of Buxar was fought. Now, Battle of Buxar was fought with against the Britishers by Shah Alam, that is the Mughal emperor, then the Mir Qasim of Bengal, okay, the Bengal Nawab, and Shuja ud Dawla of Awadh. So basically, these three guys, Mughals, Awadh, and Bengal, they formed an alliance and fought against the Britishers. The Britishers defeated them. And after they were defeated, Shah Alam had to sign a treaty. The treaty is the Treaty of Allahabad. Okay, the treaty is Treaty of Allahabad. Okay, so basically the Treaty of Allahabad was the Britishers were allowed to collect the revenues from Bengal, Odisha, and Bihar. Okay, Bengal, Odisha, and Bihar. So when was the Treaty of Allahabad signed? It was signed in 1765. Remember this, 1765. Okay, very important. So basically, after his defeat, he was virtually the prisoner of the Britishers, and he was kept in the fort of Allahabad. Now, there was a series of events, and the Marathas defeated the British, and the Marathas took Shah Alam back to Delhi. Okay, Marathas took Shah Alam back to Delhi and reinstalled him on the throne. But for nearly 12 years, Shah Alam was away from Delhi. He was, of course, the Mughal ruler, but he couldn't enter Delhi. One, because of the Afghans, and the second reason was because of the Britishers. But with the help of Marathas, he was reinstalled as the Mughal emperor. Now in 1803, okay, let me just add, 1803, the Britishers again came back to Delhi. So the Marathas were weak after the defeat of Battle of Panipat, okay, 1761, and therefore they were not able to provide protection. So after a gap of 12 years, they reinstalled him back to the throne. Okay, so we have learned that already. Now there is something else. In 1803, during the initial stages of the second Anglo-Maratha War, Anglo basically means British. The British recaptured Delhi. The British captured Delhi, and basically Shah Alam came under the protection of the Britishers. So this is the life of Shah Alam. Okay, Shah Alam was under the protection of Afghans. Okay, he was under the protection of Marathas. He came again under the protection of British, came under the protection of Marathas, came under the protection of British. So this was his whole life. So let's do some MCQs on Shah Alam. Okay, so the first question is, what is the title taken by Ali Gauhar when he ascended to the throne? The title taken by Ali Gauhar was Shah Alam. Okay, so the answer is Shah Alam. Okay, Shah Alam. Who was the chief of Rohillas? Now, as I mentioned, there was a guy called as Mir Bakshi, and the Mir Bakshi was Najib ud Dawla. Najib ud Dawla was placed by Ahmad Shah Abdali as the Mir Bakshi. Now, Ahmad Shah Abdali was an Afghan. Najib ud Dawla was also an Afghan, but here he was known as the king or the leader of the Rohillas. Rohillas were a group, okay? Rohillas were a group. We will learn about them later. Rohillas were a group, and their leader was Najib ud Dawla, okay? So the answer is Najib ud Dawla. So then the third question is, when was the Battle of Buxar fought? The Battle of Buxar was fought between Shah Alam, Mir Qasim, and Shuja ud Dawla, okay? Shuja ud Dawla, against the Britishers. It was fought in 1764. Because of that, they had to sign a treaty, the Treaty of Allahabad. The Treaty of Allahabad wanted that the Britishers will extract the revenue from the states of Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha. Okay, so it was fought in 1764. Which treaty ended the Battle of Buxar? We already know it's Treaty of Allahabad. Excellent. Okay, so now we are nearly coming to an end. So we are going to discuss about Akbar Shah II. So he was the son of Shah Alam. Let's discuss. There are only one or two important points about Akbar Shah II. There is nothing remarkable about his reign, but he actually ruled for a considerable amount of time, from 1806 to 1837. Now during this time, the Britishers expanded in India, and this guy practically couldn't do anything. He was actually a pensioner living under the British. He actually sent Raja Ram Mohan Roy to Britain so that he can petition to the Queen or the English monarch back there, so that they can increase his pension. Okay, so that's what come to be right now. That's the deal of Mughal Empire right now in 1806 to 1837. Let me show you, it's nothing much remarkable about this guy. Okay, so basically this guy succeeded after his father, that is Shah Alam II. Okay, and he gave the title of Raja to Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Now he sent Raja Ram Mohan Roy to England so that he can petition to the Queen that his salary, okay, his pension, his salary must be increased. Now that's what it has come to be. Okay, so now there is something else you should know, that the earlier the Mughal rulers issued coins for whole of India. Okay, and the Indian traders, Indian businessmen, even the neighboring kings, all of them respected this coin because it was issued by the Mughal rulers. Now, England, I mean the Britishers, removed his the Persian signs. For example, there were some numismatics written in Persian. Okay, so these were actually removed from the coin because the English had scant regard for this guy because he was practically a pensioner living under the British. For example, if this was the Red Fort, okay, so his area of rule was this only. This was the Red Fort, and that was the area of his rule. That's all. After his death, the guy called as Bahadur Shah Zafar, Bahadur Shah Zafar, also known as the last of the Mughal emperor, he rose to the throne. So let's explore him about it. Okay, so now let's talk about Bahadur Shah Zafar. The Mughal story is now finally coming to an end. So this was the last of the Mughal rulers, Bahadur Shah Zafar. You might have already heard about this guy. Okay, Bahadur Shah Zafar. So basically the only important thing about this guy was that he participated, not actively, he participated in 1857 revolt. We will deal with that chapter later. Don't worry, we will deal with that chapter in detail. So he participated in 1857 revolt. He was actually not actively involved, but he was proclaimed as the Emperor of India by the rebels. Now the rebels were captured, they were executed. Along with the rebels, his two sons, okay, his two or three sons were executed. They were stripped, they were humiliated, and they were executed. And after execution of his son, Bahadur Shah Zafar was exiled to Burma, Rangoon exactly. So let me just explain this. Bahadur Shah too became the last of the Mughal ruler in 1837. 1837 is not that important date. Okay, for exams like RRB, they won't really ask that. And his power was restricted to the Red Fort. So like Akbar too, okay, his power was restricted only to Red Fort. And he was known as Zafar because he had some poetry skills, that's all. Okay, he was known for his poetry skills. And in 1857, that's the only remarkable thing about his life. In 1857, he was proclaimed the ruler, the Emperor of India, by Muslims as well as the Indian rebels, as well as the Hindu rebels. Now, after the rebels were defeated, most of them executed, his sons were executed in front of him. And later he was exiled to Burma, Rangoon. So that's all. Okay, so now we are going to discuss how this glorious Mughal Empire slowly came to an end. Now, first of all, we should note that in 1707, Aurangzeb died. So this was the empire. Okay, so this is something we have discussed before. So this was the empire, okay, in 1710. So this was the empire under Bahadur Shah. Okay, so this was the empire under Bahadur Shah. So notice all the green. So this is all Mughal Empire. Now this is again Mughal Empire in 1718. Okay, so this is all again Mughal Empire in 1718. But in 1728, as you can see, it has shrank. Okay, so this is the area of Mughal Empire in 1728. We have some independent states like Awadh, Bengal Nawab, the Marathas of course, and then we have the Hyderabad state. So of course, Awadh, Bengal Nawab and Hyderabad had alliance with the Mughals, but they were nearly semi-independent kingdoms. And then in 1750, again we can see decline. And in 1756, by the 1756, Marathas were the real champs of India. They were the paramount power. Mughals were just basically their servants. The Mughal rulers basically took orders from Marathas. So that is why, since the Marathas are in around like this orange color, that is why I have mentioned all of them in yellow. The Mughals, the Awadh kings, the Bengal Nawabs, the Hyderabad kings, all of them are in yellow because the Marathas were the real power. They had defeated all of them, the Bengal Nawabs, Awadh kings, Mughals, and as well as the Hyderabadi kings, Hyderabadi Nizams. All of them defeated. So that is why it is shown in yellow. At this time, nearly in 1756 up to 1760, Marathas was the greatest powers. Okay, so after that, in 1768, okay, 1768, you can see the area has shrunk up to here, and after that, it was a considerable decline. And in 17, I mean, in the 19th century, the Mughal Empire was restricted to a small area in the Delhi, nearly around the adjoining areas of the Red Fort. In 1803, the English captured the king, the Mughal emperor. The emperor was put under house arrest, and he was basically a pensioner under the British till 1857. So let's explore why this happened, how this glorious empire not suddenly, slowly declined. Let us explore the reasons. Okay, so some of the reasons for the decline of the Mughal Empire are, one of them is Marathas. So as you already know that the Shivaji was the founder of the Maratha kingdom. Okay, after Shivaji came Shambhaji, then came Shahu. Okay, first of all came the Shivaji. Okay, he basically established. He was the first Chhatrapati. He was the first king of the Maratha kingdom. Then came Shambhaji, his son, who was executed by Aurangzeb. You already know that. Okay, so after Shambhaji came Shahu. Shahu was helped by a person called as Balaji Vishwanath. Balaji Vishwanath, okay? Balaji Vishwanath. So he was the first Peshwa. Balaji Vishwanath was the first Peshwa. So Balaji Vishwanath started a series of office. So this office was known as the Peshwas, basically the Prime Minister of the King. So Balaji Vishwanath was the Peshwa, first Peshwa. Then he was succeeded by a guy called as Baji Rao. Baji Rao, you already might have heard about Baji Rao. It was played by Ranveer Singh in the movie Baji Rao Mastani. Okay, so Baji Rao, he took the Maratha kingdom to a greater level. They practically reached Delhi. Okay, so after Baji Rao came Nana Sahib. Under Nana Sahib, the Maratha kingdom expanded even more. So the expansion of the Maratha kingdom continued till 1761. 1761, they practically expanded till Lahore. Okay, under Raghunath Rao, Marathas expanded till Lahore. We will deal with that when we will study about Marathas. Okay, so one of the reasons for the decline of Mughal kings were the Marathas, because they established their kingdom and they expanded fast. Okay, so then we have the invasion of Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali. Nadir Shah plundered Delhi after the Battle of Karnal. Okay, so this is very important. That is Battle of Karnal. That is in 1739. Now, after Nadir Shah looted India, he went back and he was assassinated by his servants as well as some family members. Now, after his assassination, a guy called as Ahmad Shah Abdali established the Durrani Empire. Ahmad Shah Abdali. Now, Ahmad Shah Abdali invaded India 6 or 7 times. Okay, 6 or 7 times he invaded, and each time he took away the wealth. And this was basically an exposure to many European countries that Mughal Empire was not the same anymore. They are weak, and they are held by weak rulers, incompetent rulers. So basically, one of the reason is invasion of Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali. So basically, not only they exposed the weakness of the Mughal kings to the Europeans, they also emptied the treasury. They plundered the treasury. Okay, so the third one is the rise of the European powers. So basically, after the Battle of Plassey, that is 1757, the Europeans nearly became the kingmakers. In 1803, the Europeans, I mean the English, okay, the Britishers, the East Indian Company, they captured Delhi. So 1803 is an important date. Okay, 1803 is an important date. Okay, so let us deal with some more of them, some more reasons. Okay, so then we have the empty treasury. Now, as you may already know this, or maybe we will deal with the economy of the Mughal kings. They had a system called as Jagidari system. So basically, if you are a soldier or a commander in the army, or basically a noble, you will be awarded some land. Okay, so basically, this is our Mughal Empire. Okay, and if you are a good noble or a powerful noble, as a gift, you will be awarded some piece of land. So you can tax that land, you can tax the agriculturist, you can tax the pastoralist. You basically can do anything in that land, and you have to pay some commission to the Mughal ruler. So that was the Jagidari system. Now the problem is, as the Mughal Empire grew, the Jagidars also grew. Okay, so there were now many Jagidars. So there were many Jagidars. Now the problem was that the Jagirs, basically the land was very less, but the Jagidars were very many. Many of them. There were many of Jagidars, but the land, the Jagir was very few. Now, basically, the Mughal kings, the Mughal emperors awarded Jagirs to those who could extract the highest revenue. Now, this put a toll on the agriculturist, I mean, the crop holders, on the businessmen. So, basically, it eroded the economy. So, it is one of the reasons why the Mughal kings, especially in the later Mughal kings, they had nearly empty treasury. Furthermore, we had Shah Jahan. His building activities actually took a toll on the treasury. Then we have Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb, 26 years of war in the Deccan, nearly depleted the Mughal treasury. It is one of the most important reasons why Mughal Empire slowly came to a decline. Then we have the size of the empire. Okay, so basically the size of the empire is the Mughal Empire actually stretched from Kandahar. Kandahar was lost actually during the time of Shah Jahan, but still it extended from Lahore to Karnataka, to to the deltas of Godavari and Krishna. A huge empire. So managing this was very tough, and weak, incompetent leaders after Aurangzeb, they couldn't manage it. There were repeated invasions from northwest. Okay, so we will deal with that later. Now, intolerance and social harmony. So basically, what happened is the Mughals were always viewed as invaders. Okay, even though rulers like Akbar, Shah Jahan, even Jahangir tried their best to show that they are with the people, they are actually Indians, not Mughals, even though they took the pride that they are Mongols, but still they tried their best to show that they are born out of Indian mothers. They are as Indian like the rest of the subjects. But that didn't really appeal to the most of the people. Now, after Aurangzeb was a tyrannical, intolerant ruler. He destroyed temples, he imposed jizya. So basically, jizya is the tax on Hindus. Now, this is one of the reasons why the subjects viewed Aurangzeb and the whole Mughal Empire as intolerant. And that is why they decided, no, we are not going to work with you. That is why we had the Jats, the Sikhs, the Rajputs, they all slowly declared their independence. So then we have the weak successors. So after Aurangzeb, we had a series of weak rulers, starting from Jahandar Shah. They were all involved in pleasure, lovemaking, and wine. That's the only thing they were interested in. And then we had the nobles. So they were dependent on nobles. You already know some of the nobles like Imad-e-Mulk, Asaf Jah, Firoz Shah Jung. All of them were nobles who controlled the Mughal emperor like puppets. So it is one of the reason.